Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this Diverse by Design event entitled Young, Black, and Techy, Recruiting, Retaining, and Cultivating Diverse Talent. My name is Ken Walker, and I'm Executive Vice President at Per Scholas. I particularly focus on diversity and operational excellence. Diverse by Design was created by Per Scholas in collaboration with ITSMF, and we promote solutions-driven conversations about diversity, equity, and inclusion within the tech space. We produce meaningful content that empowers C-level executives and provides access to sophisticated, customized solutions to meet your talent sourcing needs within your organization. Today, on the 23rd day of Black History Month, we want to celebrate the progress that we've made in the area of diversity and inclusion and how we've come so far in diversifying the tech workforce. We want to highlight what we've accomplished, and we want to provide C-level executives and leaders with the tools they need to do it. According to the U.S. Census Bureau and the U.S. Economic Opportunity Forum, Black professionals make up 7% of the U.S. tech industry, although they represent 13% of the total population. The format of this session is designed to show the perspectives of both young Black candidates who are trying to break into the corporate environment, get used to the technology roles that they're taking within their organizations, and just looking at this whole arena of diversity, equity, and inclusion. To help lead this conversation, I'd like to introduce you to Nia Darville. Nia serves as the Director of Diverse by Design at Per Scholas. In her role, Nia leads organizational alliance building, corporate engagement, and event strategy to achieve success in the Diverse by Design ecosystem. In partnership with Damian Howard and I, Nia provides vision, leadership, fiscal responsibility, and sustainability within this space. Thank you very much, and so appreciate you all joining us for our Black History Month celebration.
Hello and welcome to Diverse by Design. Thank you for introducing me, Ken. For those of you who may not be familiar with Per Scholas, we are a national organization that has been advancing economic mobility for 25 years. Through rigorous training, professional development, and robust employer connections, we prepare individuals traditionally underrepresented in technology for high-growth careers in the industry. We partner with leading employers to build more diverse talent pools, directly connecting our graduates to new career opportunities. With campuses in 15 cities and counting, Per Scholas has trained over 12,000 individuals in tech skills, building bridges to careers in technology. Now that you're familiar with Per Scholas, let me introduce you to our Black techies. Jerome Wallace is currently an experienced data center manager at Kobiton, a mobile application startup company. He joined Kobiton in 2018 after attending Per Scholas. Prior to being a Per Scholas learner, he owned and operated his own business for 8 years. In just 3 short years, he has earned his CCNP, ITEL, Network Plus, and A+ certifications. Jerome's short-term goals include transitioning into a network engineer role and earning another certification. Eventually, he strives to launch another business focusing on blockchain and DeFi solutions for decentralized banking. Next, it's my privilege to introduce Bettina Jerome. Bettina is a cloud support engineer for VMware Cloud. Prior to breaking into the tech industry, Bettina was a visual merchandiser for H&M and a 911 communications officer. In 2016, Bettina earned her CompTIA A+ through Per Scholas and began her tech journey. One of Bettina's career goals is to execute penetration testing for cloud services. Let's dive right in. One of the primary barriers preventing many Black individuals from pursuing a career in tech is a lack of exposure. Is this a barrier that you've encountered? How did you first learn about the possibilities in the world of tech? And we'll go on and start with you, Jerome.
Yes, it was a barrier when I was getting into it. Just as you said, it's because of knowledge and just not knowing that it was a field, and just thinking that you had to have years of education and also spend a lot of money on education. When in reality, when I got into tech, I realized that a lot of people didn't have extensive education or degrees in tech. And just knowing about a program like Per Scholas and just being able to study yourself and get things like you said, the CCNP and the ITEL, just learning by yourself was a big barrier in breaking into tech for me.
Can you tell me more about Per Scholas? How prepared did you feel to enter a tech role after Per Scholas, especially compared to some of your peers who may have taken a more traditional route?
At my time, Per Scholas, we were only doing the A+. I think they do more now. But learning everything from RJ45 and stuff that you would think was just meaningful or trivial knowledge was able to prepare me when I went into the data center manager role. Even though in my class we didn't get to go through the Network Plus, just knowing the sections on the A+ about networking definitely helped me set up a data center in 2 different locations and set up some routing in between 2 of those and make them as one, and transition me nicely from a data center technician to a data center manager, and now handling escalated tickets, even dealing with coding and some Appium and Java stuff as well.
Awesome. What about you, Bettina?
I got first exposed to technology with my uncle when I was younger. He basically, coming from a West Indian family, we didn't have a lot of access to technology. And when I joined Per Scholas with Jerome, we were in the same cohort. That was the first time I actually got hands-on professional training to get into the world of technology. So I'm currently with VMware working as an MDM cloud support, transitioning to a cloud support position.
Awesome. Awesome. Did you feel prepared to enter the tech role after going through Per Scholas, especially compared to some other people who may have taken a more traditional route?
Definitely. I actually went to college for political science pre-law. Mm-hmm. And I never saw technology or IT as something that would have been a career until I had my second child. And I realized that technology was something that I loved to do, like IT. But I never took it seriously because it was kind of frowned upon. It was either I'd be a lawyer or a doctor, traditional Haitian family. Yeah. So Per Scholas definitely helped me gain the experience so I can get that insight into tech.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely a barrier that we talk about all the time. You want to become what you see. And when you look at the statistics of the people who are in the tech industry, right, there aren't a ton of people who look like us. And so exposure is super important. And it's so awesome that programs like Per Scholas exist so that you can get that exposure and you can see the possibilities of entering tech. As a young Black techie, what have been some of your greatest challenges infiltrating an industry that doesn't include many people who look like you? We'll start with you, Jerome.
It's just that, being in a room full of people that don't look like you gets a little bit uncomfortable sometimes, just knowing that there are some people who are qualified out there to have that position. So, you don't always connect with your peers in different ways. Sometimes you do. But yeah, just as you said, it's just, being that only person in the room has definitely been kind of tough for me.
What about you?
I agree with Jerome. I think one of the shocking experiences with being in the tech industry is the cultural difference and not being taken seriously. There's a bias almost to not expect women of color or men of color to know these technologies. And so I find that it's just a little daunting to be in the tech industry.
What are there particular structures, are there particular situations where you feel that more than other times? Meetings, working with clients?
I think, I know for me, I am constantly aware of not being viewed as aggressive. I'm very mindful of that. And sometimes I'm straightforward, but due to my appearance, it can be taken as aggressive, a stereotype like that. So just being mindful of things like that.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Jerome?
Yeah, the same thing with the aggression as well. And just, saying some things and it's not, your words has not been taken for, I guess, a golden value. Almost like, you kind of don't know what you're talking about, or you kind of don't know what you actually need. So let me do it for you. Was definitely kind of the biggest kind of challenge that I've faced.
Yeah. So imposter syndrome, for those of you in the audience who may not know, it is when you enter a room and even though you're perfectly qualified to be there, you feel like you're not supposed to be. Have you dealt with that yourself?
Yeah. I've had some people that had to tell me to believe in myself a little bit more, and I'm kind of downplaying myself a lot. And just realizing, even at the company that I'm at, I wear a lot of hats. And I've learned a lot, and I've earned that. And people have told me that I need to take ownership of that and see that I've done it, and I'm a valuable piece, and I do belong there. But definitely, I felt that. Yes.
What about you, Bettina?
Definitely, because especially in the tech industry, a lot of people have degrees. A lot of my peers have masters. They have a ton of certifications. They have a lot of higher level training through college that, I didn't get. A lot of my experience is just hands-on and wearing different hats in different positions. So I definitely deal with not feeling like I feel it fit in, solely because I think we're just harder on ourselves. We tend to want to push ourselves to be better than, our counterparts.
I have one more question for you. If you could tell employers who are looking to diversify their workforce anything about how to make the experience of young Black techies in their companies better, what would it be?
For me, I know that trying to look outside of the traditional hiring practices, especially in the city of Atlanta, right? It's a technology hub. There's a ton of Black individuals who have tech experience. They just don't have that professional training. A lot of my friends, they want to be in tech, but the lack of experience or the college stops them from getting a lot of these roles. And I think if hirers started to look outside of these traditional practices, such as looking for college degrees and masters and whatnot, and just giving people opportunities, I think that would be better for the tech industry.
Gotcha. Thank you both for sharing. This has been so powerful, and you're casting your light on your experiences and the experience of so many others who are breaking into the tech industry. Franklin, our first panelist, is the driving force behind the diversity and equity and inclusion strategy at TEKsystems. He is an industry leader in full stack technology services, talent services, and a Per Scholas champion partner. A leader with a deep passion for DEI work, Franklin partners closely with TEKsystems corporate executives and business leaders to develop an enterprise strategy and initiatives that align with organizational priorities that impact the business. Externally, Franklin consults with clients to explore opportunities that empower them to achieve their diversity hiring, compliance, and supplier diversity goals. These engagements enable TEKsystems to outperform industry averages with the placement of diverse technology talent across 6,000 clients. Franklin has been with TEKsystems for 20 years and understands the critical role a diverse and engaged workforce plays in achieving company objectives. We also have Delilah Wilson-Scott, who serves as Executive Vice President and Chief Diversity Officer of Comcast Corporation and President of the Comcast NBCUniversal Foundation. Delilah oversees all diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives and philanthropic strategy for the corporation, including the company's $100 million commitment to advance social justice and equality. Delilah works across the Comcast organization, leading its community impact initiatives, providing strategic leadership through all aspects of its corporate social responsibility programs. In addition, he oversees efforts to utilize Comcast's world-class media platforms to bring greater attention to the work of its philanthropic partners. In 2019, Comcast provided nearly $430 million in total support to nonprofit partners, sharing Comcast's commitment to creating a more connected and equitable world. Thank you both so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So before we get started, we just heard from some amazing young Black talent. Did anything in their stories stand out to you or surprise you?
Please go ahead, Delilah.
One, I would just say congratulations to Jerome and Bettina for all your success. I mean, they both talked about something I think all leaders of color, especially those of us who work in a corporate environment, experience, which is there's that moment maybe when you feel like it can feel like you're just not good enough. So I would just say it's a reminder to all of us, if we have the ability to influence someone, young person or otherwise, just to let them know that they're smart, intelligent, that they can do it, that people are coming to the table with a lot less skills and credential often than they are, but it's that confidence. I mean, we need to instill that in each other every single opportunity we get, because there are just too many barriers in this world working against us. And we need to arm ourselves to get through that. So, but great to hear their success stories, and glad that their companies are doing what they can to help them succeed.
I echo the same congratulations for both of them. One of the things that stood out to me that Jerome said was just this initial lack of knowledge of the availability of IT as a career option. And I'm not surprised, because I do believe that this lack of awareness is a challenge for anyone that's currently not represented in the room right now. And you know, obviously we're narrowing our lens to talk about Black talent, and it's certainly impacting and affecting those individuals as well. And I actually think we're doing ourselves a disservice as a country by not paying attention to the workforce and the demand of the future. And you know, I guess my little piece of advice would be for us to really put pressure on our local, state, and federal education organizations to make STEM a required, some sort of exposure in the STEM field in the education space.
That is so important. That is so important. I think you should definitely get some policy out there, Franklin. I think you would be a great spokesperson for that. Well, this next question is based on a MarketWatch article that says technology companies are increasingly disclosing demographics and pay information, but for the most part, those numbers have shown little progress. In reference to diversity and equity, you all are leading the push in your organizations to attract, retain, and cultivate diverse talent. And today we're talking specifically about Black talent. Tell me about some unique solutions your organization has successfully employed to impact the diversity landscape in tech. And we'll start with you, Delilah.
Sure. You know, number one, I would say there's been a lot of great work and recommendations that many companies have put into place, not just in 2020, well before 2020. And the truth is, a lot of those best practices work, but the follow through isn't always there. The tight execution isn't always there. So, you know, if there's three things in particular, I think companies have to look at, and I think this about, you know, my work here at Comcast as well, is one, you have to check your intent, check your accountability, and check your aspiration. So on intent, there's no major company out there that's saying they're not committed to diversity. I think there is broad, you know, conceptual acceptance that diversity is a good thing. I think how companies are doing it, what type of priority they place on that is important. And that's what I mean by check your intent. You know, when our CEO announced our $100 million commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, he wasn't hiding the fact that we've been at this for quite some time. But even with all of the success we've had, there's still a much longer way to go. And we need to really make sure everybody is bought into that. On the check the accountability piece, there are many people who sit in roles, like Franklin and myself, who have to own the entire diversity problem alone, in a vacuum, in a silo. Diversity has to be a priority of every single person in the company. When you think about the number of hiring decisions that are made every single day in a large enterprise, he and I can't be in every single one of those rooms. This is something where the accountability has to be shared, and the leadership at the top of the house has to make sure that it's just as important as every other business priority, not after the fact. And so I think that that's important as well. We've had a longstanding target in place, 33% people of color, 50% women. And I think it's sometimes when you have a target, it can be easy to just think about incremental progress and not really thinking about the transformative progress that's really required. Our cultures have to change. Many companies do well at attracting Black talent at entry level, sometimes mid-level positions. It's retaining and cultivating where we have to really get specific. And I think following through on that, again, have that target, but have a lot of execution and structure in place and make sure that conversation is set. A priority is set at the highest levels of the company and is constantly evaluated. Those are some of the things that we're thinking about through our work, and just broader education for our employee base. When you're celebrating Black History Month every single day of the year, like many of our companies are doing now, make sure that message is for everybody, not just for your Black ERG as an example. Expanding is important as well.
Wow, so many actionable solutions. Thank you so much, Delilah. Franklin?
Yeah, I know your question asked about unique solutions, and I can't agree with Delilah. I don't think a lot of what we need to do is unique. I think we do need to follow through. I will say that the perspective that we bring is we bring a different perspective to the conversation, in that we're not only a full stack technology company that focuses on hiring Black and diverse talent to really execute on the projects for our service and practice areas. But our largest line of business is talent services, which means we're providing technology talent to our customers. And so we not only have to focus on, trying to solve this problem or this challenge to attract talent for ourselves, but then how do we also turn around and make it available to our customers? And so, to suffice it to say, we're not immune to these challenges. A couple things that we are doing, our practices are snapping into our partners like Per Scholas. They're hiring the talent that's coming through those programs immediately into the organization and aligning them on some exciting projects and what have you. We're also standing up our own internal boot camps, and we've had some pretty aggressive goals that we overlay on what the representation of those boot camps should look like. But when it comes to helping our customers also address their workforce diversity goals, it really does take partnerships like we have with Per Scholas. And while our partnership goes back to 2015, where we were just engaging students who were graduating in a couple markets across the country, we've really gone all in by partnering with Per Scholas as they expand across the country. And when you think about the opportunity to offer free for high quality, in-demand technology training and professional development, and then making that talent, connecting that talent with customers like a Per Scholas, it's a win for everyone.
Both very, very actionable strategies. Thank you so much for sharing that. The next question I have for you is, Franklin, kind of talking about what you were saying. You are engaged in a powerful partnership with Per Scholas to expand opportunity in the field of technology. Can you tell me more about that partnership and the strategy behind it?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned, the partnership started in 2015, and it was really just sort of hand-to-hand combat, if you will. We had our New York operations where they were engaging students that were coming through the program. And as we started to recognize the responsibility that we had to really align with the goals of our customers, like a Comcast, for which we've got a fantastic partnership in providing services, we realized that it was irresponsible for us not to really narrow the lens and ensuring that we are engaging diverse pools of talent and bringing them into our networks and then making that talent available. What we found with our partnership with Per Scholas is not just a kindred spirit. I mean, we love hanging out, But what we found is just this shared commitment to underrepresented talent and creating these bridges of opportunity. And in 2018, we came alongside Per Scholas as we've expanded to 6 cities across the country, and we're going to continue to look for those opportunities to do that, to not only offer the training that's free, but more importantly, bring partners in like Comcast, who's also expressed a commitment to hire diverse talent and really bring those two together and really moving the needle. And I love what you said, Delilah, about this incremental change. And we celebrate the incremental change, but you're right. We need to see transformative change. And a lot of times that takes taking really big swings at the bat. And I think as I look at, I know some of the work that you all have been doing, we're excited to see and to connect with organizations that are starting to do that.
Yes, thank you for sharing that, Franklin. Both you, Delilah and Franklin, what are some of the main challenges you're facing at your respective organizations, and what are you doing to overcome them?
I'll follow up on the point that Franklin was just making about sort of pipeline programs and partnerships with organizations like Per Scholas. There's part responsibility on Per Scholas to find the Jerome and Bettinas, get them trained up, make sure that matches employer demand. And then there's the work that has to happen on an employer side of the house. Is one, the commitment has to be there, as Franklin spoke to, but two, you really sort of have to dig into the culture to figure out, are we creating the right environment for a lot of our pipeline program attendees to succeed here. So people will start with the pipeline program and maybe get a few recruits in, and it doesn't really move past there, but don't necessarily do all the detailed analysis to figure out what was working well, where we need to course correct. So we've had areas of the company where people enter the company, either direct hires or through a pipeline program, and they move up the chain. So we see this a lot in our tech ops division, as a matter of fact. And they can become supervisors and managers and continue to progress in the company. But we do have areas of the company where we're not seeing that type of pull through. We'll have 40% of our employee base be people of color, 20% Black, but we're not seeing those levels as you get up to the director plus levels in our company. But we have some bright areas of success. So I think we're trying to figure out, how do you take what we've learned in one area and make sure we can apply it to the other types of function and roles in our companies? That's something we look at. Also, I think a challenge that we're facing, and we're not alone in this, is making sure that we have diverse representation at the C-suite and most senior levels of a company. I think all of us know when you're able to have someone in a C-suite position, part of the ongoing leadership conversations of the company, things do change, period. And that's something that we all need to strive for. We're fortunate to have among one of our corporate directors, Kenneth Bacon. He's actually our longest standing corporate director of our Comcast Corporation board. He's been a champion and ally at the board level, working closely with us on this issue as well. And so we definitely want to see more progress and again, transformative progress as it relates to recruiting our most senior leaders, as well as making sure our overall workforce is as diverse as it should be.
Yes, thank you for that, Delilah. Franklin?
So I think some of the biggest challenges we face as a large, distributed, matrix, complex organization, which I know a lot of organizations face when it comes to diverse talent, is Delilah kind of hit it on the nail on the head when she talked about the environment and the culture. One of the challenges you have is maintaining an environment where there's a sense of belonging spread across every nook and cranny of your organization. And when you coalesce this realization with now the expectation that the workforce has to be seen, to be heard, and to be listened to, as measured by how well you respond to them, it creates challenges, but it also creates opportunities. And one of the ways that we are, addressing that, and I know we're not alone in this, in that we're building communities where individuals of similar backgrounds, experiences, and interests, they can come together. But those communities become feedback loops for us. And one of the things that we launched last year was an initiative that we call Conversations That Matter, which is really at its infancy stage. When I think about where we really want to take these collective pauses and conversations to see and to hear each other, to leverage this muscle of empathy to see from another person's perspective, so that we can start to see the kind of change and transformation we'd like to see. Also, one of the things that we're realizing is that people simply need opportunity, and that's what we're here talking about. But that opportunity doesn't always make itself available in an equitable fashion. And over time, you have systems and you have processes that unintentionally become hurdles or obstacles. And those hurdles or obstacles sometimes disproportionately impede that opportunity for certain groups. And the way you can see that is you can see lack of representation. So one of the things that we're doing to address this challenge is that we're looking for every way that we can to interrupt these inequities. We're communicating widely about opportunity across the organization, and we're forcing access to that opportunity for underrepresented talent. Now, we're not giving anybody anything. People aren't walking into promotions. We're not just handing out, promotions because you identify as X, whatever that is, But what we are doing is we're forcing diversity into the pool. And what that's doing is that is raising the game for everyone. And there's this funny byproduct that happens. You actually start to see diverse representation seated around the table when you do these kinds of things.
Wow. Thank you both. These are very actionable strategies. Something we're trying to do at Diverse by Design this year is to really make sure that we're having conversations about these topics, but we also want to make sure that people are walking away from this segment with actual ideas of things that they can implement in their organizations. So for this last question, in response to the heightened awareness of social injustice and racial inequality we saw last year, many companies have committed to become more inclusive and create environments that promote diversity. However, many of them are struggling to back their words with strategic action. What advice would you give the leaders of these organizations? Where should they start?
For sound DEI strategies, I think it's consistent with the same approach I would recommend on a sound CSR strategy, which is you really have to think about what your company's assets and resources are. For us, I think a lot about our technology, our talent, and just the reach of our media. And so how do you take, that trifecta come together and really serve communities in a unique way, in a way that I think only we can do really, really well. That's what kicked off our commitment to the digital divide and closing it, and also really serves as the basis as we think about how digital equity is absolutely our company purpose, our social purpose going forward. So start with what you know. I also think you have to be transparent about where you are. There were many calls to action and statements, social media messages, to the point of your question about we want to do things differently. And then it was paralyzing for some companies who weren't sure where to start, who were questioning some of their actions to date, but also, not necessarily taking the time to listen to their employees, to get active feedback from some of your main constituents, to also reach out to community leaders for advice as well. I think when we laid out our $100 billion plan, we sort of took these things into consideration. One, again, using our consistent approach and learnings around digital divide and digital equity. What could we do more in that space? And not just more, but more, and not just more of the same, but more with a specific targeted approach on getting more impact. We've focused on closing the divide, as I mentioned, for 10 years. Now we really want to think about doing that with a focus on economic mobility. Exposure to technology is great, but when we talk about advancing social justice, we need to think about economic justice, and we need to make sure people aren't just getting connected, but they're getting connected to incredible programs like Per Scholas, like a program where you end up with a tangible skill and credential that's going to be recognized by employers that can help you get a job or advance your career. These are the things that make a difference at the end of the day when it comes to economic justice. So I think also taking what you know and taking it a step further is helpful, but soliciting active feedback. We have external and internal diversity councils that help check our actions. We bounce ideas, they give us ideas to really make sure we're being as thoughtful as possible. I think what we do know is inaction is not acceptable for any company at this moment. We also have to get in there and make some tough decisions, but we can't be paralyzed, not now.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. I actually wrote on a sticky note, preach.
You felt it in your spirit. You couldn't let it go, huh?
That's right.
You had to write it down.
So I was thinking about this question and just kind of, trying to think about, how do you narrow this down to in its simplest form so that we help companies remove the excuse for getting involved and staying the course. And so I came up with 4 terms, which is really simple. And that is, I think you need to get really clear about why this is important to you, not only as a leader, but why it's important to your organization. Once you have that clarity, that will dictate how you actually respond. That response should then be elevated to strategic initiatives sponsored by some of your most senior leaders in the organization, which is why I love what we do with Per Scholas, which is it's sponsored by one of our senior vice presidents, Matt Hannigan. And once you elevate it to strategic initiative, then you just need to communicate about it often, because when you do that, your people will start to hold you accountable. And that will create this cycle of being clear about what you're doing. This is how we're going to respond. Someone is at the senior level is sponsoring this, and we're constantly talking about it, and we're allowing our people to put pressure on us to stay the course. I think this is how leaders and organizations can not only get out of the gate, but stay out of the gate.
Wow. Thank you both. Thank you both. Thank you both. We were supposed to have one more speaker today, Forrest Harper. He just dropped something in the chat that says, according to McKinsey, there has been over $66 billion pledged on racial equity. I'm asking corporations focus on their internal hiring processes. Starting this year, there will be a ton of Black and brown talent. Will corporate America be ready for this? It will take internal disruption to change the behaviors of hiring. If this is not addressed, the Black and brown talent will not stay. Franklin, Delilah, do you all want to address that?
I mean, I think hopefully you all have had a chance to see the McKinsey report. We were trading notes with it with a few colleagues today. It starts out pretty depressing. Let me be clear about that. When you think of where Black people are concentrated in this country, the types of roles Black and brown people are concentrated in, the types of industries, and when you pull all that together, unfortunately, there's so many factors that are working against us in terms of Black people in an economic global situation, but stepping into these positions and succeeding. So I think that these are all things that we need to be focused on. I also think, I think it's kind of interesting in the midst of this pandemic, how there's been a light shown on many of these inequities in a way that didn't happen before. And of course, that's all been exacerbated by the George Floyd issue, which is not new, let us be clear, but it was new in how everyone experienced it and reacted to it. So I think, data is everything. As large companies, we use data to make every single decision and to inform how we're going to move forward. In DEI, it's no different. And I think some of these issues are impacting our industries. I do think with COVID, we have an ability to think about remote work differently. We have an ability to think about flexibility in a different way. But we also know that right now, just based on digital skill levels that we're able to estimate, if we continue on the path that we are on, we will have a majority population of people of color that are not trained to be economically self-sufficient in this digital economy by 2045. That's not that far away. We really need to accelerate the commitment. We really need to make sure that people understand the value of being in technology careers. And while I love that, we always say, you can be it if you can see it, we need to dream bigger than we can see in this moment, because what we're seeing is not enough. So we need to create that vision of what we want to see. And I think that requires a type of acceleration that we haven't had before.
Wow. Yes, thank you. I have another preach sticky note on my side too. Thank you, Delilah. Franklin, do you want to comment?
No, I think Delilah said it best. And I don't think corporate America will have a choice. I think that we will continue, I shouldn't say continue, but I think we will see a continued slippage, I should say, in our ability to be a leader globally And it will be directly connected to our degree, to the degree that we're able to cultivate the talent we already have here, the talent that's already shown up to our doors, and then making space to actually hear and listen to them and allow them to contribute to the problems that we're trying to solve.
Right. I just received another question that I think is a really good one. On the individual level, what should we do to help push this initiative forward?
I hope that no one here underestimates what they can do as an individual. And some of these actions can be small, but I think we all know how powerful it is to, on one level, to mentor somebody, to sponsor somebody, to help find that access and opportunity that maybe they aren't able to get. I also think that the voice of the employee today is stronger than it's ever been. Franklin and I both talked about actively soliciting feedback from our employees. What do our employees want to see? What are they not seeing? What are they challenging about our hiring practices, our interviewing practices, our succession planning, how people get rated high potential, our promotions? Those things matter, and as an employee, you're one of the most important stakeholders at the table. And I think that's important that we use our voices to participate in the relevant conversations at our company, to make sure that you're raising your voice in that way. But I don't want to underestimate too just our ability to be a volunteer or a coach to a Per Scholas student, to connect a Per Scholas alum to a job opportunity, to help expose people to what a technology career could look like. Jerome said he didn't really hear of it. I didn't hear of my job when I was much younger, right? My job didn't exist. It wasn't part of anything I would ever dream of. But I got here because a lot of people helped me guide through that process and also gave me the ability to create the future that I wanted for myself. So I just think all of us have that individual ability to impact someone, and hopefully we find that and take advantage of it every single chance that we get.
Jerome and Bettina, welcome back. So happy to have you back. I do have a question here for you. There's a question that says, if you could give any advice to young Black techies about succeeding in the world of tech, what would it be?
Just work hard, and as we was talking about earlier, just have confidence in yourself, and know that you can do it. You don't particularly have to go to school and pay $50,000, $70,000 to learn this stuff. You can pick up a book yourself. There's plenty of courses out there to learn anything that you want to learn. And all it is it takes time. I've sat next to CTOs. They Google just like us. So just take your time, learn, find the information out there, and just do it. Just do it.
I agree with Jerome. One of my favorite mottos is fake it till you make it. Honestly, because you can feel like you don't belong, and you may not feel like you're seen, but somebody sees you, somebody's watching you. So definitely just, faking it until you make it, until you feel comfortable and confident in the position that you're in. And remember that you got this position for a reason.
So important. So important. Delilah and Franklin, this question is aimed towards you. I've seen a lot of reports of diversity pushes in hiring, but no work in the environment. So then BIPOC or Black, Indigenous, people of color folks get pushed out within a year of onboarding across industries. What can current employees and leadership of a company do to make sure the work environment is safe and supportive for new hires?
Yeah, I think it's incumbent upon organizations to recognize the impact that the revolving door has on their ability to remain relevant, their ability to increase their market share, their ability to continue to grow their business. That will and should motivate organizations to start paying attention to the things that they need to do to create support structures, mentoring opportunities, both formal and informally, and then celebrate and highlight those leaders in your organizations that do it well. But then finally, and we're starting to see it even within our organization. As a leader within an organization, if you can only lead and engage and develop one demographic within your organization, your value to the organization starts to shrink. then that means that we can only surround you around whatever that is that you can develop, and you lose value to the organization. And that message has to be clear to that leaders need to, senior leaders need to convey to their leaders throughout the organization. And because the workforce is becoming more diverse, we can't afford to put you in the corner and only surround you with people that you feel comfortable with. You have to be able to develop talent across the board.
I agree with that. I mean, I hope the economic imperative, makes diversity commonplace at every single company beyond the commitment. But we all know that many of us have seen the business case for diversity for, decades now, and that hasn't forced the type of change that we're starting to see right now. I do think in terms of, and we talked about it earlier, attraction to your company, hiring sometimes is the easiest piece of the pie. It's that retention and ultimate cultivation and development where things can go wrong. I think there are a couple things you can do. One, that onboarding process is critical. All of us can probably think through a good and bad onboarding experiences we've had where you've had to, there were all these unwritten rules that nobody told you. But if you had a buddy, especially someone who one was committed to making sure you were successful, right? Not just forcibly assigned to you, but I'm here because, I'm going to link arms with Bettina and we're going to do things together. I'm going to make sure she doesn't have those pitfalls. That type of system, informal or formal, is really incredible for any of us to have. And I think we definitely need more of that. And also having just as many diverse interviewers as we have set up diverse slates for candidates just creates a different expectation as well. And then I think it's all about follow through. This is not just a first 90 days experience. We all encounter new experiences, new leaders that we have to work with, new challenges, and we kind of need that help along the way. And I think sometimes even once you're in a company for a year, you need to have a safe space to go to. And sometimes that happens through a business resource group. We've been, fortunate to have a strong ERG group. I also don't think you really do have to, I just can't stress it enough, solicit active feedback. So one of the things we measure at our company is what we call NPS. So we're a NPS company, Net Promoter Score. It's how we rate customer satisfaction for the great work that we do, especially on the Xfinity front. So this allows us to have that same type of approach with our employees. So once a month, they're getting asked the question, do they consider Comcast to be, to have an inclusive environment? And, would they recommend other people to come here because of that, et cetera? So it's a very quick, short 3-4 questions, but it gives us a quick pulse on where people are, and we can separate that data by demographics. So we know where our Black employees are. We know where our API employees are. And I do think disaggregation, we haven't talked about it today. While our focus is on Black employees, what you do for Black employees is not synonymous with what you do for people of color, right? People of color, you're saying a lot when you're just saying you're focused on Black employees. But if you try to bundle all people of color together, you're not going to get a strategy with results. You're going to get a lot of outcomes and lagging data, but you're not going to get the data that you need to move forward. So I do think those are a couple of things that we all need to work on. And again, it has to be consistent pressure and focus and accountability around it as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much to each of you who are part of this conversation today. I'm sure everyone who attended today will walk away with new insights, ideas, and renewed purpose to make their organizations more diverse by design. So thank you. And I'm going to hand it over to Damian Howard, our Executive Vice President for Social Ventures, to wrap it up. Thank you again to our panelists.
Well, I hope everyone enjoyed today's session. There were so many great thoughts shared in today's session that I will carry with me as we continue to have these business and solution-driven conversations with our enterprise-level partners. Thank you, Bettina, Jerome, Dalila, and Franklin for sharing your thoughts and your expertise with us today. I would also like to thank our corporate sponsors, Google, Comcast, JPMC, and TEKsystems, for all of their support. And of course, I want to thank all of you, all of our attendees on today, for joining us as we discuss the important topic around recruiting, retaining, and cultivating Black talent. I always like to say that diversity is a design principle. And I can't stress enough that you should not be doing this out of philanthropy or out of the goodness of your heart. As a business, you should be sourcing superior and diverse tech talent simply because it makes good business sense. You don't want to deviate from that, because if you treat this as a project or an initiative, you are stripping away at the value of what diverse talent can do for your organization. Significant research shows that a diverse and inclusive workplace tends to provide better staff engagement, higher productivity, and less turnover, as well as increasing innovation and profitability. This simply just works for your bottom line. And at Diverse by Design, we want to empower our business partners to move from conversation to action. And we believe that we would be mishandling your time if we just gathered you here today just to simply share stories and best practices with you, all of which are important. But we want to move way beyond that, and it's high time that we do so. We want to partner with you to provide a pipeline of qualified, determined, and brilliant diverse talent that can be built and developed according to your specific hiring demands. In an effort to maximize the energy and the momentum that we have seen here today, we would ask that you schedule a consultation with us to learn how your organization can become diverse by design. You can visit our website at www.diversebydesign.org to set that up. Finally, we want to let you know that we have a tangible way to thank you for coming to this event. We designed a limited edition Young, Black, and Techy sticker to help remind you of the valuable tools that you learned today. In order to secure one, make sure to fill out the survey in a follow-up email that you will receive after this event. Thank you again for joining us today. We hope that this webinar provided you with valuable tools and insights. Let's keep this conversation going. Our next Diverse by Design event will be taking place on March 30th, where the topic will be the 140,000, supporting women during the pandemic. We hope to see you there, and most of all, we are looking forward to working more closely with you. Enjoy your day.